Hi, Glenn here, Monster Guitars. Look, I'm sorry, I've been so busy in this workshop getting stuff done that I have scarcely had any time to edit or upload any videos. I've done a bit of recording though, and I've got a few projects on the go, so there's lots of material that will be coming up, including this, which I will start to show you now. It's another Strat type guitar. Obviously you can tell by the shape. It's got an elm top, which I always think is lovely. It's got a cool inlay feature on the back too, which is something that's a first for me. I think it went really well. You watch this video and then comment down below and tell me how you think it went. Hi, Glenn here, Monster Guitars. I don't know when this video will be published, but right at this moment, I'm doing the big rearrange and tidy up in the workshop after basically finishing that timber storage shed, moving a bunch of stuff out there. So things were a little bit chaotic, but they're looking better than they have in a long time, which is lovely. I've got some space in here. And while I was tidying up, I came across this. I always knew it was here, but I kind of hadn't gotten around to doing anything with it. Elm is one of my favorite woods for guitar tops. This is a book-matched piece of elm. And I'm going to make something probably that shape, that's a basic Strat shape, or something similar, maybe not exactly that, but some variation on a Strat-ish shaped guitar. That color there is where I was testing out stain to go on the top of the Viper that I finished not that long ago. Maybe it was a while ago, time flies. Yeah, you should always, when it comes to finishes, you should always test your finish out on the same type of wood. That had an elm top as well, which is why that's there, but that'll sand off, no trouble. So yeah, let's get to work and make something nice from this. That might be enough. Right, let's turn these old recycled pieces of Remu into something that I can glue together. And there we are. Apparently I cut them just the right length, and now they're ready to be glued. Well, having my drum sander hooked up to my dust collector just makes such a difference. There just seemed to be no dust flying around. It was great. I need to replace the belt in my drum sander. There are these burnt marks. It's just a pain to replace, so I'm being lazy and putting it off. I'll just give this surface a sand. Let me just check what size we've got here. Good. Okay, so that's about 34. I'm using an elm top, which is fairly thick from memory. Let me just check. I suppose, is it thick or not? I don't know. Thick is relative. It's about 7 millimeters there. So it's not going to be a very thick guitar. It's going to be more than 40 mils though, just. And that's okay because there isn't going to be a tremolo in it. So I won't have to ramp for that. And this top is already sanded down to the final thickness, so I won't need to reduce that anymore. Okay, I might draw an outline on the blank, do some routing for cables. Okay, that's roughly cut to shape, and now I'll use my template to route the edges to the exact shape. The floor is getting a bit of use just because my workbench is still quite messy. So there, I'm using the template as a clamping caul to clamp that elm top onto the Rimu body. Before I did that, although I didn't bother recording it, I did some routing in the body for cabling, and I also made the control cavity in the body under the top. So we'll come back to that shortly. I have some table legs. I have a couple of sets of table legs because I'm going to start building more furniture. I may actually make a second YouTube channel, actually a third YouTube channel that I have, all about building furniture, or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll stop being such an exhibitionist and I'll just build this stuff. Okay, let's wait for this to dry. Gosh, I wanted to talk and suddenly it got windy outside. So I have this design idea for the back of this strat-ish type body. I started doing it another way by using other guitar bodies as templates for the curve, but I've just decided to do it another way because I think it'll be a bit neater. I'm going to cut out a fairly neat circular, what will I call it, cavity, rebate, something, recess, that's it. And then I'm going to fill it with a piece of elm matching the top, which fits the size of that recess more or less perfectly. And I've been thinking about the best way to do that, and I've decided that it will involve using my trimmer router, my Makita, which I'm a huge fan of, with a little, is that a jig? I suppose it is a jig that came with it. Yes, a circle cutting jig that came with it. And I'll make a couple of templates from this MDF. Let's see how well I do. In order for this pivot point to be held nice and secure at the same point along the guide, I actually needed to include this second piece, which is all sorted out now. So let's get back to cutting a nice round template. Okay, now the trick is going to be cutting out a template for another piece that will fit exactly inside that, because it's no good just using this piece, because that doesn't take into account this channel that's been gouged out or cut out. Alright, so think of this piece as the guitar body, because this is going to be the template that sits on the guitar body, and the recess will be cut over here. So the piece that sits in the recess needs to come all the way up to the line here. So what I should do then, yes, okay, so now I'm extending the router out. Alright, I think that should do us. You can't really see what I've done there, but I've just increased the radius through which the router moves slightly. Well, we're at the maximum, so I hope that will be enough. It should be. Right, so I'll leave the router attached here. Creatively remove this piece, and then on the piece that's sitting under this piece, because there are two pieces of MDF here, I will use my new circle to cut a piece that will be on this side and fit perfectly into that circle. Fingers crossed. I hope this works. I've never done it before. Well, that took a couple of attempts. For some reason, I just got the radius wrong. Initially, I started with one that was much too large. But now this is pretty much right. The two pieces are different thickness because they're two different sheets of MDF. That piece represents the body, and this piece represents the bit of elm that will sit within the recess, and it's a pretty good snug fit. I like that. I am going to be joining those ends with, or filling/joining those ends with some epoxy resin glue, so that'll be quite forgiving. I think this is going to turn out well. Well, let's find out, shall we? Because of how messy my bench is, and just because of where I positioned this, there wasn't a great place for the camera, but there's the recess. That's pretty good. Will I use epoxy? Maybe I won't use epoxy. Maybe what I will use is a putty made from wood dust and glue, because I mean epoxy would work and it would leave a dark line, which can be okay, whereas the putty made from glue and wood dust is slightly less visible. I don't know, I'll think about it, but either way we're going to be fine. So in principle this is pretty straightforward. Now I've decided to make up a paste, a putty, call it what you will, of wood dust and glue. Right, so I've made a big blob of this stuff, and now it's going to make a big mess on the surface, which is totally okay. I will clean that up. This will dry hard, very hard, and then it will be sandable. I do need a new tripod. This one is getting a bit unstable and falling over, but you can see what I'm doing. I'm just clamping this in from every direction, and sometime over the weekend, it is Friday night, I will take it off and sand it down and trim that inlay to the shape of the body. That went as well as I hoped. That looks pretty good, if I do say so myself. If you only ever saw the back of the guitar, it might seem a little bit weird, because you'd think, why has he got a different kind of wood there? But then when you see the front, you'd be like, oh, I suppose there's a bit of continuity. That mud, I call it mud, putty, paste, whatever you like, has done a very good job. I'll just get some focus there. Yeah. So there is a very fine dark line there, but it looks natural enough. It's filled in the gap, except for one tiny spot right near the end here. I'll just make some more of that stuff and put it in, and then resand it, and then it will look more like that, which is good. Okay, well that was a kind of stroke of not genius. Inspiration? You don't talk about strokes of inspiration. That was a bit of inspiration that just came to me and seems to have gone well, and now I'm going to do it again sometime. Filling in that very small gap that was there. That will be sorted soon, and this seems like as good a time as any to end the video and publish this one, and I will continue very shortly with the next few steps on this guitar.